taking guitar lessons. In this Licks to Impress, we're looking at not one, not two, but three tapping licks. For the meme lords, let's just start off with Sandstorm. Okay, so our bonus trick here right off the bat. I'm tapping the same fret that I'm hammering, and I am hammering from nowhere here, rather than trying to pull off from the tap, which would be very tricky from the same fret, to say the least. I'm also using my first finger. You can use the second if you want to tap the third to mute the strings. That'll help keep things clean. That's why it's resting across the strings like that. Start with a tap and then a hammer and alternate between these two. As a sort of side note, this feels easier to me at a higher tempo. You might find the same. I'm just trying to keep it slow to show what's going on here. The bar finishes by switching to the E string for two notes. Again, tap the first, hammer the second. We continue the same tap idea on that 12th fret. A slight change here on the 10th fret on the E, hammer from nowhere first and then tap. And lead with a tap again on the 10th fret on the B for those last two notes of the bar. Up to the 12th fret for a repeat of that first bar. And then the same thing again. So lead with the tap, except when you get to the 10th fret on the E, then hammer first. And here's the whole thing slowly. As a slight bonus tip there, playing the whole thing staccato is going to be much easier. When I was playing it slower before, I was making the mistake of trying to play it more legato. But you really want that staccato. Which is probably why I said earlier that it felt easier at a faster tempo, because you're more likely to play it staccato when it is quicker. So another bonus tip as well, you could tap and hammer the same note but use a different string. I bet like something Steve Vai might do, lesson card in the top right there. So this shape up here for the right hand, what would you have? Bonus tip within a bonus tip here, you can get a cool fake delay type sound using this technique, or maybe something that sounds a little bit like a kill switch. So if you want to replicate that synth Darude sound, try using some bit crusher like in my video game Licks to Impress, that's in card up there. Maybe fuzz or some pitch shifting for a more robotic, authentic synth sound. Next up, Muse's Reapers. This probably looks more complicated than it actually is, and what is admittedly a bit of a dog's dinner of a tap, it doesn't help much either. It's a fairly straightforward tapping line. A fair bit of gain compression will help get you a nice even strong sound, and make sure to use your right palm to mute the lower strings and help keep it clean. You lead with a hammer from nowhere on the 4th fret here, which feels less intuitive than leading with a tap for me, and then we hammer again on the 7th, tap the 12th, and pull off to the open. Here you want to flick through the string just like you would a pull off for a stronger sound, instead of lifting the finger off. So if you lift the finger off, you get a kind of weak sound. If you give it a nice flick, you get a much stronger sound. And the first bar is just that shape 8 times, that 4, 7, 12 open. Bar 2, really similar, just move your left hand up 1 fret and keep tapping the 12th. So hammer 5, hammer 8, tap to 12, off to open. same shape with the left hand still, but at the 8th fret, hammering to the 11th, still tapping the 12th and pulling off to the open. So hammer 8, hammer 11, 12, pull off the open. Again 8 times. And those bars slowly together. If your pinky gets a bit of a workout here, and you might want to get a stronger sound by angling it, or the tip. So what I mean by that is you can kind of keep it straight and just hammer it down. Or you might find using the tip gets a stronger sound. They're just two different techniques to try out, and some will work better for others, so just giving you some options there. The next 2 bars are probably the trickiest parts here. It starts just the same as before. We hammer 7, hammer 10, tap 12, pull off the open. I do that 7 times. On the 8th time, instead of tapping the 12th fret on the D, we're going to tap the 12th on the G and then pull off to the open G. This messes my head a little bit in terms of the timing and makes me want to leave the bar with a tap. So my way around it was by counting out the beats in the bar, so I knew the first beat still fell on the hammer. So going from the 4th beat in the previous bar, we'd have 4, 1, just like that. It might not help you, but I certainly needed a bit more effort here to keep track of where the downbeat was. But yeah, this bar really similar. We're on the G string. We're hammering the 3rd to the 5th, tap 12, and I'm sure you guessed by now, pull off the open. Just like the last 2 notes of the previous bar. A bit more of a stretch going from 3 to 5. If it feels too big a gap, just practice further up the fretboard, the same interval, and move it down until it feels a bit more normal. The frets are closer here, so that's why it doesn't. It's not going to be quite as difficult if you move it up. So yeah, let's just go for those bars. Next we go back to hammering that flat 3rd interval. This time it's 5 to 8 on the G, tap 12, pull off the open. Again 8 times. And then we just shift this up a semitone, hammering 6 to 9, tap to 12, and then open. And those 2 bars together. So those are the whole parts. Let's just do the whole thing nice and slowly. For those nerds who want to analyse the taps, it seems to me like they sort of outline a D major, then a G minor, followed by maybe an A7 flat 9 / D, or an add 11. It could be a D major 7 augmented, maybe not in this context though. A D7, possibly a D minor 7, but probably a D7. A G minor, C minor, then C sharp diminished triad, leading back to D for the verse. So just to clear that up, you got your major, you got a G minor, you got the one that I think is probably that A7 flat 9 / D, and then we have a D7, another G minor, which is this one, C minor, and then the C sharp diminished. Going way back to the early 2000s with this one. To be fair, you can play it with hammers, but the original guitarist tapped it, or at least he did in the video, so I'm calling it a tap click. In more recent live clicks, Guitar 2, the rhythm guitar, has started doing the harmony lines, which I think sounds awesome and really makes those bits pop out. Anyway, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, so Guitar 1 first. I'm doing this without any picking, apart from the very final bend, just going from the live version that I looked at. Having said that, my right hand might decide to pick notes of its own accord, as it often seems to do. You can pick notes if you want, it's your call. So starting with these triplets, you want to try and use the right palm, again, to mute the other strings by resting just gently on top of them. Tapping the 5th, peeling off to the 4th, and then the open. So tap, go off, go off. Same idea again, but we're tapping the 7th fret, going off to the 4th, and then the open. And those together. Next we've got a hammer from nowhere on the 4. Hammer, go off, hammer, and slide. That would be 4, 5, 4, 5, 7. That's the harmonised bit. And you can also put some vibrato on that 7th fret if you fancy it. So far we've got more left hand legato here, hammering on from nowhere, then pulling off to the open string after each hammered note. So for example, you're hammering and then giving it a flick to that open B string there. So we go 9, 10, 12, 10, 9, 7, 9, 10. Again, as I say, making sure to pull off to that open string after everyone. As a bit of a bonus tip, you might notice what I'm doing here is I'm resting my thumb on these lower strings. I'm pretty much anchoring it on the G string here and putting a finger or two on this higher E. And this basically means if I do kind of hit one of these strings by mistake, they're not really going to make any noise. Like you can rake across them, and that's just the E ringing out there. So that can kind of help prevent any kind of slop and that sort of thing. Particularly if you're doing this live, you want to make life as easy for yourself as you can, really. Yeah, so let's put all that together. The repeat is almost identical except for the last notes, the last 4 to be exact, which would be the open 9, the 9 to open, and 10 to open, are replaced with this little semitone bend on the 9th fret. Return to pitch and a subtle vibrato. So that last hammer bit there, you'd have. And let's get that a little bit cleaner. Cool, so bars 3 and 4 in their entirety would sound like this, and then I'll just do the whole thing after that. And all of it together. guitar 2, I'll just do the full thing slowly. So the 12th fret, you might notice I put in brackets there. I think that's the harmony in the studio version. It's a bit tricky to get from the card before up to there. So live, I'd probably play it safe and go for that note, the octave lower. I'm rather boring in that regard. My inner bassist seeping out there. But yeah, if you opt for that higher note, it's the same idea. It's just a tone bend and a return to pitch. Exactly the same on the lower one as well. But yeah, keeping a style similar to the harmonised line will blend nicely. So what I mean by that is I'm picking this first note, hammer, pull off, hammer again, and then slide. So that'll make it kind of blend nicely with what we were doing before. Because if you pick every note, it's going to sound a bit more distinct, and you want that part to meld as much as you can. So yeah, once more, let's just go through the full part, and I'll go a little bit slower this time. Cool, so those were 3 fairly easy as tapping licks go, licks to impress. I'm not gonna lie, the one that is admittedly a bit of a dead meme is still gonna probably impress the most. For more licks to impress, check out the playlist, this video here for quick tricks. Hit subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments, share, like and enable notifications with that little bell on the side, if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.